Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the 10,000 Stitches podcast. We are into the double digits now. This is a weekly knitting podcast all about the joys of knitting socks. My name is Andy and thanks for joining me to talk about socks. I know it seems strange that there can be 10 episodes worth of stuff to talk about, but I assure you this is not the end. There's much more to talk about. Where you can find me. Depends on, of course, where you're watching, but we have the 10,000 Stitches podcast YouTube channel. There is a 10,000 Stitches podcast group on Ravelry, and there is my blog. You can find me on social media as Purlbug, Purlbug. That's Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry. And my blog is thepurlbug.com. So depending on where you're watching this will determine where you can find various links and things. If you're watching this on YouTube, there will be a link in the description box below to the blog post that goes with this episode, a direct link to that blog post. There will also be a link to the Ravelry group in that description box as well. In the blog post, underneath the video will be links to anything relevant that I mentioned. So any patterns or podcasters or shops or anything like that will be linked below the video there. Same thing with the Ravelry thread for this week. Anything relevant will be linked underneath the video in this episode's thread. I think that's about it. If you are coming back from a previous week, thank you for returning. And if this is your first time watching the podcast, thanks for joining us this week. It's as good of a place to start as any. I don't have notes for today. Normally I try to drop an outline of what I'm going to be talking about, but today I'm winging it. So hopefully we'll get through everything okay. I do have my phone. I thought I had my phone somewhere. Perhaps I do not. Perhaps I shall go find my phone and I'll be right back. I did indeed have my phone right next to me, but I couldn't see it because it was under the blanket. But anyway, I have my phone to look up anything important that I need to look up, and it gave me a chance to go grab some water, so that was important too. Anyway, no notes or anything, so we're just gonna wing it this week. But we're gonna follow the same basic format as usual, so finished object, work in progress, what's coming up. We'll talk about the knit along, because I finally have prizes to show you. Woo! And I have to come up with a question of the week on the spot, and then we'll talk about chit-chatty stuff at the end if you don't care about that stuff. So yeah. So first, finished object. I think I had just started these maybe last week. I wasn't down to the heel on these last week, but I finished my twisted socks. These are going to be a birthday present for my mother. So they are sized to fit her, not me. So I actually can't try them on. I tried them on the first one when I had finished with the gusset decreases, because up to there it's fine. It's just that her foot's shorter than mine. So I tried them on at that point and they fit fine. So as long as I did my math correctly, they will fit her great. But anyway, this is what the pattern sort of looks like. This is in Cascade Heritage sock yarn in the, I forget the number of the colorway, but it is the cedar green, I think is what it's called. It's this kind of deep yellow green, and it was knit on a size 1, which is a 2mm needle, 72 stitches, top down, heel flap, and gusset construction, and of course the pattern will be linked in the show notes, but I didn't really follow the pattern very much. So the pattern kind of uses this slipped stitch rib, so actually the majority of what you're doing is purl stitches, and I apologize, the lighting is not great because it's about 3 o'clock right now, so I'm losing my light. I wonder if I can maybe turn towards the light, and if that will help. There we go. So the majority of what you're doing here is purl stitches, but the slip stitches that you're doing, you slip them. Oh, there we go. You slip them knitwise, so they really stand out from the fabric really well. So that's really cool. And then I did the back plain, as I've been doing on most of my socks, and then I did just a basic slipped stitch heel flap, and then I did my gusset decreases actually on the bottom because I thought it would mirror the top quite nicely, and what I did was I actually purled the gusset stitches and then decreased those way on the bottom. So what I did differently than the pattern is in the pattern, I think that the way this like twist happens is it actually comes from like the side of your like gusset here, like the twist comes up and around the sock. And I didn't really want to do that just because I knit with 2 circular needles, that would have meant doing something on both the top and like the back needle, and I didn't feel like doing that. So I just basically started the twist along the side edge, and then it just twists across the front of the sock. And it worked out nicely such that the length of the sock was basically when so this is where the twist starts, just after I like picked up after the heel flap. And then it basically, let me see if I can get my hand in here because that'll stretch it out and make it a little bit easier to see. So the twist starts here, and then it goes all the way across the top of the sock, and then I just had like a few more rows, and then I started the toe decreases. So that's really nice that I kind of got all the way across, and then it was time for the toe. And the toe decreases, I was hoping I could kind of re-round out the sock, because with the way that you do this twist, it kind of causes the fabric to lean a little bit. And I was hoping that I could re-round out the sock so that it wasn't going to wind up being specific to like a right foot or a left foot, but it didn't really work out that way. So like this sock is definitely a right sock. And then, see if I can get the other one on my hand. Merp, merp, merp. And then this sock is definitely a left sock, because of course I mirrored them. But that's fine. I'm sure she will like them anyway. Let's see, come on, light. Yeah, maybe I can open my shades a little bit more and let in some more light. Maybe that will do it. We'll see. I'm kind of fighting. I had a tough time getting super productive today. Like I said, it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I just showered. So, but yeah, so I'm pretty happy with these. I really like them, and I hope she likes them as well. I'm sure she will. She's my mom. She likes everything I do. But yeah, so I'm very excited to send these to her, and I will probably send them to her just a little bit before her birthday. Like I'll probably try and get them in the mail so they get there around the 1st of March. Her birthday's in mid-March, but they'll just be a little bit early, and that's okay. So that's those. So this was pair number 6 for the year. Yay. So yeah, so that's my finished object, and then my work in progress. I know I had been saying for the past couple weeks that after these twisted socks, I was going to be doing the Dracker socks by Sockmatician, and I am still planning on doing those, but I'm not going to be doing them right now. Siren outside. I'm not going to be doing them right now because, like, this sock required a fair amount of concentration, you know, with having to keep track of, like, where the twist was and structural elements. And I just need a break from that. So I'm pushing the Dracker socks off until next week, the next pair of socks that I do. And this week I'm just giving my brain a break, and I'm doing kind of a mindless knit. It's not really a mindless knit, but I'll explain why. So what I'm doing this week is I'm doing the Socken Grippa, which I forget who it's by. Of course it'll be linked in the notes. But basically the way this one works is it is kind of these alternating checkerboard squares of vertical ribbing and horizontal ribbing. And so it produces a pretty stretchy fabric. So I'm doing that on Patons Kroy FX in the casual colors, which is kind of like blues and browns. So this is what it looks like so far. Again, this is being knit on my size 1s, which are 2.25mm needles, and this is a 72 stitch sock. I don't think I mentioned it, these were 72 stitches as well, but because the Cascade Heritage is so much finer of a yarn than the Patons Kroy, this is turning out much bigger, which is good. So these are going to be for, I think, my mother's boyfriend probably is who I will make these ones for, because like a 72 stitch sock on Patons Kroy is definitely a men's sized sock. And I don't know that many men in my life who will wear wool socks. I know he will, my mother's boyfriend. 72 stitches is too big for Wesley. He takes a 64 stitch sock, and I think these are going to be a little bit too busy for like my little brother, and my older brother doesn't wear wool socks, and my father can't wear wool. So, and I don't know how Wesley's father is feeling about his wool socks yet, but I feel like these would be too busy for him as well. So my mother's boyfriend it is. But anyway, so this pattern is very easy to just kind of read your knitting, and it doesn't take like a ton of concentration. And because it'll be nice and stretchy, I'm actually going to do these with an afterthought heel. So that way I don't even have to deal with it. Like I'm doing a true afterthought heel, not like a forethought heel. I'm just going to knit a big tube and then I'll pick up stitches wherever it needs to be and put in my heel there. So these are going to be a pretty mindless knit because I just kind of need that this week. I overworked myself this past week and I just need to kind of just mindlessly knit a tube and deal with the heel later. Which is good because I wanted to do an afterthought heel tutorial, but I just never quite got around to it. So hopefully when I get to that on these, which will probably be next weekend, I will sit down and film a little tutorial on how I do my afterthought heels. So, or basically how I pick up my stitches, because the rest is just decreasing and then Kitchener stitch. Although I suppose I could do a tutorial in Kitchener stitch if you want one. Let me know. Let me know what you want. But yeah, so again on these, I'm doing the back plain and then I'm doing just the patterning on the front. And I think it will look really cool with this sort of Barber Pole-y FX yarn. I'm really excited by using this. So yeah, so that's what is in progress. I just started this around lunchtime today, so I'm through the ribbing and into the pattern. I did like 10 rows of 2x2 ribbing and then I'm doing the pattern on just the front, like I said. So, oh, and with these, I forget who it is that keeps suggesting this to me, and I feel really bad about that. But I keep getting it suggested on the group, because I've been mentioning that I've been struggling with my long tail cast-ons being too tight. I keep getting the Norwegian cast-on, or the German twisted cast-on, whatever it is. And of course I'll link to a video describing that. But I keep getting that suggested as a really good stretchy cast-on for socks. So I did that for the first time on this, and oh my gosh, what a stretchy cast-on. I love it. And it took me a couple of tries to get it at first. Like I was sitting there with my yarn on my fingers and I'm like holding my needle and trying to get it to work, and I'm like, why can't I figure this out? But once I got it, then it really clicked and I was able to cast on the rest of the stitches really easily. And I'm sure I'll probably have to like relearn it for the second sock, but it's super easy. So definitely like that. And like I said, I will link to the tutorial that I used so that if you want to try it, you can too. It's not that much harder than a long tail cast on, and I actually didn't find that it took nearly as much yarn as I thought it would. I found for me it took probably about the same amount of yarn as a regular long tail cast on, so just bear that in mind. I had probably a foot of yarn that I cut off of my tail because, you know, of course I wanted to leave a tail long enough to like weave in, but like no joke, I cut an extra foot off of this because I left way too much tail. So, whoops. But anyway, that's my work in progress. And then then upcoming, next week will be the Dracker socks, and that will be on this yarn. And this is Cascade Heritage sock yarn in the colorway 5611. And I forget what this is, what like the name of this colorway is, but it's kind of like a bone parchment kind of color. So that'll be that. And then after that is the last set of ribbed socks. It's crazy that like we're there. By the way, I'm recording this on Sunday, February 7th. You will be watching this, or well, this will be posted on Wednesday, February 10th. So almost halfway through February by the time this is posted, and like that's just crazy. But anyway, then the last socks will be the Syncopation socks, and those are going to be knit on this Patons Kroy in the colorway Gentry Gray. And it's a very dark, like charcoal kind of gray, almost black, but not quite black. It's actually very similar to the color that I used for Wesley's socks at the beginning of January. But anyway, these will be the Syncopation socks, and that will be for my little brother, I think. It seems like a good pattern for him. It seems like a pattern that'll have a good amount of stretch, be nice and comfy, and I'll make them just like short little ankle socks for him because he has gigantic feet. Holy cow. Probably the biggest feet I will have knitted for so far. He has huge feet. So yeah, so they will definitely be shorter because I just don't know that I would have enough yarn to make a very long pair of socks for him. And he prefers like shorter sort of socks. So yeah, so that's what's upcoming. And then after that is on to cables. Then we hit March, and March and April are cables, and that is super fun. I'm super excited about a lot of those patterns. So yeah, and I guess that leads us right into knit along news. I forgot to check how many finished objects we have, but we have a decent amount of finished objects in the finished object thread for our first knit along, which of course I will link to in the notes. But yeah, I'm super excited to see everything rolling in. And by the time you see this, like I said, it'll be the 10th at the earliest. You have until February 29th, the end of February, to go ahead and put in your finished entries. And realistically, I will probably lock the thread when I wake up March 1st. So basically, I hope that will account for any discrepancies in time zones. So you have until pretty early in the morning, March 1st, Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Time to get your entries in. But yeah, and the rules, of course, are in the thread that I will link. And I have prizes to show you guys. So this isn't all of it. This is just the like yarny sort of prizes. So the first thing is this really cool bag that was donated by Erin. I'm pretty sure it's Erin of Holland Handmade. And she has a podcast. I'm just trying to bring up and make sure that I'm saying the right name because I will just be mortified if I am not. Yes, Erin of the Holland Handmade podcast, and I will link to her podcast. And I finally got to watch one of her episodes. I watched her latest episode this past week, and she's so adorable. I find that, like, I feel like she kind of is, like, her podcasting style is very similar to Kristen of Volenvine. So if you like Kristen of Volenvine, I definitely suggest checking out the Holland Handmade podcast. And of course, I'll link to that and everything. And she has an Etsy shop where she sells like project bags. And so she donated a project bag to the giveaway. And it's a really cool, like, it's good for sock sizes and it's like a drawstring sort of bag. So it's super easy. And her project bags are very, they're not like heavily interfaced, which of course I don't have a ton of like experience with project bags. Like I've said before, I use very like non-traditional sort of project bags, I guess. But like a lot of project bags that I see being described, they seem very kind of like stiff, which is good if you want it to stand up by itself. But like if you're like me and you're frequently shoving your bag into another bag, you kind of want it to be nice and like squishy and floppy. So this is definitely of that style, and it's very cute. It's got very cute like sort of like mandala patterns on the outside, and then the inside has this super cute plaid pattern. How adorable is that? And of course you can like roll the top down, and then it will kind of like sit up on its own, and you can just kind of have your yarn coming out of it. And then in there is yarny goodness. So also in there is a yarn that she sent my way, which is the Cascade Heritage Prints. And this is in the colorway 01, which is kind of these greens and blues and speckles. And it basically knits up into a fun sort of striping pattern, which I just think is so springy. Like, how perfect is this to like kind of end out, you know, January and February with a nice springy green colored yarn. So that's one of them. And then the other one, this is kind of the like one that I had ordered for this, is from Kim Dye's Yarn. And she is a knitter in Virginia here. And she's actually way further north than where I am in Richmond. She's, I think, Herndon, which is like way up by DC. I had no idea how far up it was. But this is a skein of her yarn. And this is a 80-20 superwash merino nylon blend, 3.5 ounces, 434 yards. And the colorway is Terra Firma. And how beautiful is this? Again, I feel like very appropriate kind of coming out of winter going into spring. But it's got just these really beautiful blues, a little bit of gold, some grays, some darker blues, a little bit of like, a little bit of green in there. And I kind of picked this because, well, it's not necessarily what I would consider a unisex yarn. Like Wesley was kind of like, I wouldn't wear socks made out of that. So it's not necessarily like a men's sort of yarn or like a unisex yarn. It's not pink is basically what I wanted. I wanted something that would appeal to a little bit broader audience than something that was like pink or purple or something like that. So I thought this would appeal to, you know, more people who would maybe be entering the giveaway. So yeah, so that's that. And I can't even, it's so squishy and so comfy. I'm doing a Mina thing right now from the Knitting Expat where she just squishes her face in the yarn. But yeah, I love it. And it feels like it's nice and squishy and round and nice, but it also feels not wimpy, like, if you know what I mean. Like, it feels like it's going to be a good solid sock yarn. So so yeah, I'm super excited for whoever gets this, and I had better see the socks that you make out of it because I want to see how this knits up. So there's that, and then I totally forgot. So that's the giveaway stuff. So like I said, that's not all of it, but like I'm gonna be throwing other goodies and stuff into here. I'm basically gonna stuff this project bag as full as I can without damaging it full of goodies. So the yarn will be in there, and then you can see it's got plenty of other room, so I'm gonna stuff it full of other goodies. Maybe I can find some like candies or something that are local to Virginia, and like other like office supply goodies, because as we know, I love that stuff, like pens and little notebooks and stuff. And yeah, and so you should enter that giveaway if you have, or that knit along, if you have any sort of socks that you have started since January 1st and you will have finished by the end of the month that fit the criteria in the thread that's linked, you know, in the notes. You should enter them because yeah. And yeah, and I don't think I've ever mentioned this before, but this is of course open to anyone. Whether you're domestic or international. So I guess I just didn't say that because I didn't think about it, but I'm willing to ship anywhere, so you should enter. But yeah, anyway, and you should also watch that Holland Handmade podcast because she is adorable and wonderful. And I was having another thought about that. What was my other thought? I don't remember. Oh, I'm so bad. Anyway. Yes, so that's that. And I'm actually going to go grab something. This is going to be a lot of cutting and splicing on my part when I go to edit this, but I wanted to grab something because I forgot one of my other acquisitions for this week, which I might as well talk about now since I'm talking about yarn that I ordered for the giveaway. So I will be right back. Okay, so this is what I went to go grab. And this is another skein of yarn that I got from Kim Dye's Yarn. And this is... I'm not gonna lie, I ordered this because I was a little bit selfish. Because I was ordering that other skein from her, and, you know, of course I wanted to make the shipping worth the cost. No, I saw this and I just kind of had to have it. This is the colorway Blackberry, and it's a Corriedale and nylon sock blend, 75-25. 3.85 ounces, 477 yards. And it's this really pretty, like, purple. I don't know how this is going to look when it knits up, whether it's going to stripe or what exactly. I haven't used a lot of variegated yarns, so I have no idea what this will look like, but it's got like some sections that are just gray. Come on. Like gray sections, which it's showing up much more purple on screen right now than it actually is. Like this part here is actually very gray, like it's hardly purple at all. But then it's got some very pinky purpley sections, and it's got some nice sections where they kind of blend together, and it's got some more like dusty purple sections. So I'm really excited about this, and I've never knit with Corriedale before, so I'm excited to see how this knits up. I've heard that Corriedale is a very hard wearing yarn, so yeah, I'm super excited. Squish face. I will probably do this for one of the cabled socks. Maybe I'll do this for the Snosberry socks. I bet that would look really good. You know, blackberries, snosberries, it's like perfect. But anyway, so I had to share this because I bought this along with that other one, and I'm super excited about it. And this one is super squishy, but it's like, it's not soft. Like it's more of like a Patton's Croy kind of a feel. Like it's not superwash merino soft. Like it's not like I would want this around my neck. Like I don't think I would want to wear this around my neck. Like it's not super itchy, but it's just itchy enough that for me, I don't think I'd want it. But I think it will make great socks. And the little like end keeps like slipping out. I'm super bad with skeins of yarn. Ugh, the end keeps slipping out. But anyway, I'm super excited about this, and I just think it is so pretty. So, yeah. Okay, so that's that stuff, and I'm trying to think of what else. Okay, so question of the week. I don't know. I don't have something. I guess question of the week. So, like I said, I want to try and remember to film a tutorial for doing the afterthought heel on these socks when I get to that point, probably about next weekend, because that's when I'll be able to set everything up. Is there anything else that you guys would maybe like to see tutorials for? I know that showed in that one video how I do the toes on my socks. Is there anything else that you'd like tutorials for? It doesn't necessarily have to be like a complete like thing. That doesn't make sense. Like a toe on a sock is like a big thing, but it could be something simple like how to do a certain type of stitch, or how to do like how to cast on a certain way, or how to bind off a certain way, or things like that. Like if there's anything you'd like me to do a tutorial on, what would it be? Of course, nothing like that would be unsavory in terms of like cheating a designer out of a paid pattern. Like I know I saw on Volenvine, Kristen's last episode, she said that someone had requested a Fish Lips Kiss Heel tutorial. And she said that she, doesn't really feel okay with doing that whole pattern because that's a paid for pattern. But like she did feel kind of okay with doing like a tutorial for the twin knit stitch and the twin purl stitch because there's already videos out there for that. So, things like that. Like I obviously can't show like a pattern that's paid for, but like if you'd like me to show how I do like how I turn heels on heel flap and gusset socks or something like that, I'd be more than happy to do that. So let me know if there's anything that you'd like to see tutorials for, because those take a little bit of planning in advance and I have to be able to set up so that I can, film from the right angle and everything. So yeah, let me know what you'd like to see. And I guess that's probably about it for the knitting stuff. Yeah, I think so. I feel very discombobulated this week. Like I said, it's about 3:30 right now. And I just feel like I've been having a hard time like getting going for the day. But on the other hand, like I really wanted to finish like my socks and get another thing started before I filmed. And so, yeah. But I think that's about it. I'm sure there's something that I'm forgetting. But isn't that just always the case? So that's going to be it for the knitting stuff. So if that's all you're here for, then thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again next week. If not, let's talk a little bit about the past week, shall we? So yeah, this past week was kind of tough for me. I think I might have like been sick or something. Like every so often I will get this thing where like, because I'm pretty healthy, like I don't tend to get like really sick very often. And it more likely happens that like I get sort of sick, like I get hit with like a really low level cold or something, so much so that like I don't ever actually get sick, but I just feel like super run down for a couple of days, and like I don't sleep well, and I just am like a zombie for a few days and like no energy at all, and then I get feeling better. But it's like super frustrating because it's not enough to like keep me from working or anything. I just feel like garbage for a couple of days. So I think that might have happened this past week. Because I just felt like bleh for most of the week. Like it was a pretty standard week at work, just very busy. I've been struggling because on Tuesdays and Thursdays I have to teach a lab in the evening. And so, but like I like to be in by 8 o'clock in the morning most days because the earliest labs start at 8. So I'd like to be in there at 8 because I feel like it's most likely that the TA who has to teach that lab, if anyone's just not going to show up or not make it because of car problems or something like that, that's when it's going to happen most likely, and that's when it's going to be hardest to fix. It's easier if it's later in the day and more people are around, but like 8 o'clock in the morning is just like asking for trouble. So I like to be there at 8 o'clock because that way if someone doesn't show up or someone's running late, I can at least get things started until we figure something else out. So I'd like to be in at 8 o'clock in the morning, which means leaving home by 7:30 in the morning. And which is fine when I'm leaving at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Like it's a long-ish day, but I mean, that's a pretty standard work day, 8 to 5. So it's no big deal. But on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I still want to get in at 8 o'clock in the morning, but then I teach a lab from like in the evening. I don't usually get home until 7:45 or 8 o'clock at night. So that makes for a very long day. Like that's almost a 12-hour day. And of course, I take, some time off for lunch and stuff like that. But like even still, like that's a very long day. And so I've been trying to kind of like force myself to take an hour out of my day, like around 3 or 4 o'clock to like take an hour and just not work for an hour. And I really try to like remove myself from my office because I mean, at that time of day, nobody needs me. All the labs are running, they're fine. I don't need to be there at that point. I've done everything that needs to be done. I can just take some time. So, the problem is, like, I can't stay in my office, because if I stay in my office, then I feel like I need to be working. So I've tried, like, going to the library and just, like, sitting in the library and knitting, but, like, that's a very loud environment, like, because of all the students. So, like, that's kind of stressful to me. So, like, this past week, I came home and I just kind of came home for a half hour or so and, like, ran to the post office and did a couple things like that, which of course isn't really much of a break. Like, it's nice because I get away from work, but it's not downtime. It's like I'm walking home and to the post office and then walking back to campus. So, pulling those kind of days twice a week, I think just, like, exhausts me. Like, I just wind up so pooped by the end of the day. And so I really need to, like, figure out a good way to, like, manage that time better and, like, better balance, like, how much I'm working versus, like, how much I'm not working and all of that, which I think just comes with time. Like, I'm just in general kind of a type A workaholic personality. So, but yeah, and I think that this week, coupled with, like, the whatever, like, not feeling well thing that I was having, just, like, left me completely wiped out by the end of the week. So much so that, like, Friday night, I went to bed at, like, 8:30 p.m. Like, I was so tired. Yeah, just a very long week in that sort of way. And so it was like that. And then I also realized this week that, so my job is kind of ambiguous in its duties. Like, I mean, I have this very specific stuff that I'm supposed to do for the labs that I manage and teach. So, like, I have that stuff kind of set, but then I also have a lot of time that, like, I can just devote to kind of doing other things, whether that be designing new labs or rewriting lab manuals or whatever, stuff like that, which I have been doing. Like, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I have been doing that so that I can hopefully, like, implement some of these things over the summer, to, like, test it out over the summer versus, like, in the fall. But, like, even still, like, I have a decent amount of time where I can just kind of be doing other things. And so, and of course I want to be doing productive things. Like, I feel like if I'm being paid for this time, I should be working during that time. I shouldn't just be sitting in my office knitting. But I'm also finding that I have to be very careful about, people making requests of my time and, like, how much of that I really give a lot of attention to. And I don't want to say too much because, of course, I don't exactly hide this podcast from anyone, but I just need to, it seems like a lot of people kind of have these projects that they want done that, to me, it's like, well, if this was important, wouldn't it already be done? Or wouldn't someone already be working on it? So I just have to kind of make sure that I am very careful about, like, the stuff that I take on. Like I said, I tend to overwork myself. And so I have to realize that I can't do every single thing someone asks me to do, because some of these projects may not actually need to be done, or they don't need to be done right now. I just have to, like, keep an eye on that and make sure that, like, I'm not trying to please everyone all the time, because of course nobody expects that from me, and it doesn't help me any to, like, work myself into the ground if people don't actually need these things done. Like, if they're not actually expecting it to be done, they're just like, well, if you're bored, you could do this. So that was kind of an important lesson for me to learn this week, was that, like, I do want other things to do, and I do want to be busy, but at the same time, I can't say yes to everyone. So, which I think a lot of us just in our lives need to, like, I mean, we all know that, but it's hard to really internalize that and live that, because we want to do that. Like, we want to please everyone all the time. And sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you just can't be everything to everyone. So yeah, so that was my week. And then, let's see, yesterday was Saturday. So what did we do yesterday? Wesley had another violin lesson. And we went to Target. And then we had a Sharknado movie marathon last night. If you haven't watched Sharknado and you have Netflix, they're all on Netflix. Go watch them. They are cinema gold, and they are so bad, and I love it. We'd seen the first one before, but, like, there are 2 sequels now, and they're brilliant. So we sat down and watched both of those last night, and oh, it was so good. But yeah, so we did that last night, and then today we've been watching NCIS for the morning, just kind of plowing through a few more episodes of that. And then part of the reason I had mentioned that I had just taken a shower before I sat down to film this, and that's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's like, well, what were you doing? Part of it was because I was waiting, because I had to cut my hair. So I don't know how apparent I've made this before, but I actually have a mohawk. So I shave the sides of my head because, and I mean, it's a very wide mohawk. Like you can see it's pretty much from the outer edges of my eyebrows. It's pretty much how I do mine. But this is because I have so much hair. Like even just this, like this center hair, I have so much hair that like I basically shave the sides just to make it manageable because otherwise there's just so much hair there. And I was in desperate need of a haircut, and I didn't know that I had brought my clippers with me, so I found those this past week and I was like, yes, I can do my own hair. So I was waiting to do that because I needed Wesley's help because I can do the sides just fine, but like the back parts, like behind my ears and stuff, like I've done it before with a mirror and trying to like, you know, have the mirror and like be, you know, doing it. But that's really hard, and it was easier to just have him come and do it because basically all he, like I had it pulled back into a ponytail, so all he had to do was just nyeh, nyeh, and that was it. So it was super fast and super easy, and saved me about $30 on a haircut, so yay. I had been playing around with the idea of just shaving my entire head because I just get so sick of having so much hair, but Wesley was like, but I like your hair. And so I've decided to keep it. I'm hoping that maybe by the end of summer I can like braid it, like put it into a French braid, and then it will be a little bit more manageable. But yeah, it's a lot of hair, and it's very thick, like coarse hair. It's just, it's the kind of hair that like people are like, oh, I would kill for your hair because it's so thick, and it grows really fast, and it's like, I don't know how well you can see it. This is like my natural color. My natural color is kind of like a strawberry blonde kind of color, which of course you can't see very well right now because it's wet, but I have naturally like sort of a strawberry blonde color, and people are like, oh, I would love your hair, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much work, you don't want it. It's so hard to wash it and dry it and style it because it's kind of like wavy, but it's not really super wavy or super curly. So yeah, and it's just doing kind of whatever. Anyway, so yeah, so that was today, and then I'm hoping to get some laundry done and get just like some chores around the apartment done before I get too tuckered out for the day, and then it's back to the grind for the next week. Today's the Super Bowl, so I don't know whether or not we're going to watch that. Of course, by the time you're watching this, it will have already happened, but like I've said before, we don't have a TV here, so we'll have to see if we can maybe stream it online, but neither of us really care that much because like the teams that we care about aren't in it, so it's kind of like meh, whatever. NCIS might be more interesting than the Super Bowl. So yeah, and then yeah, just another week at work, and then next weekend is Valentine's Day. Not that we care. So who knows, maybe we'll do something for that, maybe not, but probably not. We've been together a little bit too long for it to really be like oh my gosh, Valentine's Day. So yeah, so that's that. And I guess I've been talking long enough. And I guess that's going to be it. So thank you for watching, and I will hope to see you guys next week. Bye.